All right, welcome back. This game is called Chase, and you're going to see why it's called Chase. So this was actually made by one of my buddies. He's a great guy, really good coder, and he was working with me for a summer. We were teaching some coding camps, and he made this game just for fun, the heck of it. Came up with an idea and did it. So here we have how to play. So we're going to use the arrow keys to make it home. Home's going to be in the bottom right. A creeper will chase you after 3 seconds. The maze is randomly generated, and that's something we're going to go over today. And sometimes it's impossible. Fascinating. So if I hit play, here I am, I'm this guy here, and I'm running around, and you're going to see there's a creeper. I am sorry, I forgot how loud this is. But he's going to follow me and do whatever I do, as long as I stay on my toes. It's so loud. Oh, he got me. I don't know why I couldn't get home. But that's how the game's played. Sometimes you don't make it home. The creeper's after you. Okay, so that's the game. So a couple of things I want you to notice. Here's the map. I hit refresh. Notice, different map every time. Now we're going to use different images, not the Minecraft ones. Oh. So he's coming after me. You can see him following in my footsteps. I made it home that time, and we're friends. If you make it home, he likes you. Okay, so that is the game. That's what we're going to build. And this video is just going to go over how to make your game random. How to make the random map. So here we go. We're going to make a random map. And ours is going to be a little bit different than my buddy that made his. So tweaked a few things. So what we need to do first is notice we were on a grid. When I was moving, he was moving precisely a grid space. So the first thing we want to do is say, how large do you want your grid space to be? For some reason, I'm going to call it grid space. So one grid space equals 50. Now the next thing we wanted to do is make it full screen no matter what device you're on. If you're on a monster computer or a television monitor, a computer monitor I meant to say, or a television, it's going to take up the whole screen. If you're on a little iPhone, take up the whole screen. It doesn't care which. So the way you do that is we're going to create a variable called screen width, and it is equal to document element client width. I believe that is correct. And then I'm not typing that out again. I'm going to copy it and paste it, and instead of width, oh come on, instead of width, we're going to do height. Okay, so there is our height, and there is our width. Now the next thing we want to do is, that's great, we know the height and the width, but we need it to be perfectly divisible by 50, our grid space. And the way that we're going to do that is I'm going to create another variable called W, and this is going to be our width, and it's equal to math.floor. And we are going to go screen width divided by grid space, and that is going to give us a number. So what that did for us, do I want to go, and then I just want to go times by grid space. Yes. Okay, so what that's going to do is we might get like 1280, right? So let's say our width is 1280. We're going to divide that by 50. That's a decimal number. We're going to round that decimal number down, and then times it by grid space so that we are perfectly divisible by 50. And guess what? We're going to do the exact same thing for the height. We're just going to call the height H, and instead of the screen width, we're going to do the screen height, times it by grid space. Perfect. Now we can do our sgs.open, and we can target this little ID. That's where our game's going to open up. And what's our width? And there's our height, W and H. So if I were, let's build the background, then I can refresh it. Unless you just want to see it gray. Maybe you guys want to see it gray. So let's open this up. There's our window. Gray window. Perfect. I don't know why it's scrolling. I did not expect it scrolling. There we go. I needed to hit full size. Okay, so now we are good to go. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, let's make the background. This is just trivial. You guys have done this 100 times. Images, and I named it grass2.jpg. I have my images right here I can take a look at. So here's Chase, images, grass2 is the one I liked. That's right. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Click here, refresh. Oh yeah, that's right. So what do we want to do? We want to go background.set size, and how big do we want it? WH. Save it, refresh, there we go. Now we're stretching the whole system. Okay, so very first is we want to start making the maze. And the way that we want to make the maze is we're going to put trees. So I'm going to do this grassland, and then trees are going to become our maze. Now we always want our person to show up top left, and he needs to be able to move one space right. So he's going to move one space right. So I can start my maze with always putting a tree in that third spot. So let me come here, and what we're going to do, the way we're going to do that is we're going to say var x equals grid space times 3. So at the very first, this is going to equal 150. Now if you wanted to make the grid spaces bigger, now you don't have to change your x or anything like that. So we're going to try and make this where you can edit one number and everything else will adjust towards that. Okay, so that's our x direction. Our y coordinate is going to start at 0, which is the top left. And then we need to know, we got to keep track of our rows, and our rows are going to start at 0, and that's all we need to do. Okay, so now we're going to build out one row at a time. So think of this as we create this as one row being created at a time, and we're going to do that in a while loop. So while, as long as x is less than w, and so x right now is 150, and w is whatever the size of their screen is. So I guess if they get on a screen size less than 150, this game is not going to work. Okay, so while that is true, we're going to make ourselves the tree. Images, I think it's just called tree.png. I think I had it in there. I also have a JPEG one. I try out all sorts of images. And how big is the tree going to be? That's why I keep saying I need a designer to just do this for me. It's going to be a full grid space. What else we got to give the tree? The tree needs to be offset. This is the main thing. So we're going to offset the tree by x, y. So this is basically our move to, but we're just going to put him. So at first he's going to be 150 and 0. I guess I could have done a move to. Offset's fine. Tree.type equals tree. Okay, now I can't save and refresh right now because this is a while loop, and x, that would cause problems. Now what I could do is I could comment this out and prove to you that prove to all of us that our tree is going to show up at 150 and 0. Okay, so there it is. There's our first tree. That proved it to me too. I'm breathing a sigh of relief now. Okay, so we have our tree that shows up at 150 and 0 based on this code. And so now we need to come up with a way to build out this row. So we want space between them and we want it to be random, right? So let's build a random number. So if we go math.round, math.random, and I think I times it by 8, seems to be a good math. So what this is doing is this is creating a random number, and that's going to be how many grid spaces are between each of the trees that get created within a row, not a column. We're just dealing with rows right now. So what we need to do is we need to say, okay, now x, you're going to be equal to yourself, which starts out at 150, plus random times grid space. Okay, so 150 plus whatever number we generate, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 8, times that by 50. Now I'd love to save and refresh and show you that it would build out a row. I could do this actually. So if I go if x is greater than or equal to w, then I can do break. Okay, so if I save and refresh, there we go. So you'll notice these trees get made in a random spot every time. Now we're always going to have our starter, and then we get random grid spaces. So if we played with this number here and we said, I want a lot more trees and not so much space. So we lower that number, and now we're going to start getting more trees. Okay, so that's how this is going to work. Let's do the full thing at 8, and then we'll make some decisions. Okay, now when x is bigger than w, we don't want it to exit. We want it to do the next row. So what we need to do is now say rows is equal to rows plus 1. We need to move down our y coordinate. So y equals y plus grid space. And we need to reset x to the beginning. So now x is 0. So what's going to happen is we will always get a tree that is going to show up here, and then also one down this side. Every row will start with a tree because we just reset x to 0, and then it will build that tree with whatever y is. So here's our y getting updated, and here's our x getting reset. We only have one more if statement to do. So now if rows is greater than or equal to our height. So our height here has a specific block space, or a grid space. This height is built up of so many grids. And the way that we know what that is we can just go h divided by grid space. That's how I did it. I wonder if I could just, yeah, this is how you have to do it. Grid divide by grid space, and then let's break. So this is saying take the height, divide that by the grid space, and when our rows is larger than that, we know we're off the page now. So we can just leave it at that point. But it's going to build every row. That's all the code we need. We're good. Look at all these trees. We have built a random level. Okay, there you go. So here is our level made of nice random trees. And that's it. We got the code. So we're going to keep building this game until it has been improved on this Minecraft chase game. So hope you enjoyed that. If you want to see, we've been doing quite a few of these, and I got behind trying to organize my summer camp, so I wasn't able to do a couple of the last few weeks. But if you come here into our watch coding demos, underneath kids on our website, simplycoding.org, you will see all of the, and it's slow to load because I'm filming myself, but here is all sorts of games that we have broken down and done the coding for and built from scratch. So these are fun. You can go through and watch these, and it just takes a little while since I'm recording to also pull in all the different videos we've made. And if you want to see games that kids have made, come here to the Code Dungeon. Here we got a whole bunch of games that kids have made. They did our courses, and they were able to, after doing the course, to then make their own game. That's what we like to do. We like to teach kids how to code and then help them create their own game, because that's when it's really fun. That's when you actually learn how to code, is when you start creating your own stuff. So that's how we do a random map. Study this code if it doesn't make sense. Go through this video again, break it down line by line, and you'll understand what the computer's doing. With one little button here, change that to 25, we can make a grid that's twice as big. Now we have a maze that's twice as large. Now if you wanted to, maybe you don't see really well, you want each grid space to be 100, there you go. Now grid space is 100. So you're able to play with that number, and because we've built it with logic that's really abstract, we're able to change one number and it changes the whole game. I mean, you could do 17. Well, 17 is going to be really small. 37, like you don't have to keep to these nice whole numbers. 37 will work just as easily as any other number, and here's your grid. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed that, and we'll post the next episode as soon as we get it done. Thanks. See you guys.